First thing I'm going to do, so these cakes have been cooked and chilled fully because the cake is much easier to work with if it comes out of the fridge. Because these cakes aren't flour based, they don't go stale in the fridge. So like a regular cake can go stale as the gluten absorbs moisture from the fridge. So these ones don't. These ones actually go really quite nice and fudgy from the fridge. And they're much easier to cut. So I might just make that great. Okay, that's good. All right, so actually these plates that I have in my kitchen come in quite handy for something like this because it has this little bit of a lip. I'm going to use that as my guide to cut through the cake to make things easier for me. In fact, I might use my long serrated knife here, or this one to do, just a slightly thinner, longer blade. And I'm just going to put my hand on it, and I'm just going to use the plate as my guide to cutting. It's much easier cake to cut than regular flour-based cakes because it's much denser, less crumbly. All right, I think I'm all the way through. I'm just going to go through. There we go. And then I will move that aside and then put it back together again, but I'm going to alternate the layers. So I'm just going to put those two aside and do the same with the chocolate. Okay, now I'm going to get some icing I've made. I have some of the vanilla, cream cheese, buttercream. I'm just going to put about 3 to 4 tablespoons, depending on what country you're in. 3 Australian tablespoons there. I'll just use my little mini cranked spatula, but a butter knife will do the same. Just give it a little bit of a spread around. Not too much. Don't go all the way to the edges because as you put the next layer on, it will sort of squish it out a little bit. And then that way you have a little bit of extra space for it to squish out instead of it overflowing. So I've gone almost to the edges there. And then I'm going to put a chocolate layer on. In fact, I think I'm going to make that a little bit thicker. So that when we do slice it open, we'll really see those creamy layers. It's just a little bit extra. Another 1.5 tablespoons there. Okay, pop that on. And then I'm going to repeat that, alternating the layers. Okay, so I've probably used just over 1/3 of the icing, and I've still got 2/3 remaining because we want to cover the whole thing. And I want to try and do an ombre, which is when the, oh, that's cracking. I'm going to just quickly, I need to move it to something flat because I won't be able to ice to the bottom while it's on that plate. Probably should have done that first. So what I'm going to do is move it to this chopping board very carefully. It's sticking a bit. Okay, and make sure when you look down that it's not, you haven't got the layers going askew, so you can hold a knife, well that's curved, hold something straight up. The only thing I've got going on here is the cake appears to have gone in a tiny bit at the bottom of the tin, so this layer seems to be a little bit smaller than the others, even though it was all baked in the same tin. That's fine, we can work with that. Okay, so at this point you probably want to actually have the cake on what you're going to serve it on. But I don't have, what can I put it on? Yeah, what I'm going to do is when I get to Daniela's, I'll move it onto a cake server or something so we can photograph it. So I'm just going to leave it for now. So if you're not sure where it's going to end up, have it on something like that where it's not going to get stuck. Ice it and then you can deal with it later. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, we'll see the finished product when the book comes out. See what we decide on later on today. Okay, so now what I wanted to do, so for example, if you want a blue ombre cake, or a pink one, or well, generally those are the two colours people use. This is what I would suggest. Oh, black, you could do black, that would be really cool. So I've just got these, this is pink pitaya or dragon fruit powder, dehydrated or freeze-dried dragon fruit powder. The carbs are quite high, but then you use so little that it doesn't end up adding a lot on. I actually wanted to do the 3 layers, a pink layer too, but when you bake this, so the cake mixture, the cake batter was really lovely pink, but when I baked it, the pink just disappeared. So I've tried that twice and it's happened, so I think that would make a great icing. Beautiful bright pink, or this colour exactly as you see it. And activated charcoal, you could do a really cool black one, but today I want to do blue spirulina. It's just like the green spirulina superfood, except they've removed the green colour, which also removes the algae flavour, and so it's pretty basically flavourless, but it's still a superfood. It's still amazing for you. So like I make kids blue things like banana ice cream. I freeze bananas and then I add cream and blue spirulina. I've done that for lots of kids that have visited for dinner, and it's been a 100% total hit. They absolutely love it. So what I'm going to do is split the remainder of the icing now into 3. Just roughly. Probably actually not even, probably what we'll do is a really small dark blue layer, because this stuff is quite expensive, but also with the ombre you generally have more, it starts dark but it goes up to being white, and generally the dark layer is only very small. So we'll make the biggest layer the white layer, pale blue, and then darker blue. So I've got probably 1/3 that'll be light blue, and then the other 2/3 are weighted more heavily for the white layer, and then I'll get it out so you can see how much I've got there. That much there. So don't stress about this, it doesn't have to be exact, it's going to turn out looking great no matter what you do. And I'm going to add a bit of the blue. going to start with about 1 teaspoon worth, like a metric teaspoon, flat. And then we'll just whip that with the butterfly to mix that in. Okay, that was a few seconds, speed 4 with butterfly. So this cake, with this blue, it would be beautiful for anybody, because sometimes, like for a baby, a baby boy, people often do blue cakes, but then also mermaid themed. My daughter had a pool themed birthday, so I did a blue cake for that. So there's the blue icing. What I'm going to do now is just try and spread this around the bottom layer using my spatula. If there's lots of crumbs, the trick there is to do a really thin layer. So I am getting some crumbs, but nothing to worry about. If you do get crumbs, the way to get around that is you do a super thin layer of icing to stick the crumbs on, and then you put the cake in the fridge for 5 minutes. The icing goes hard, and then you come back and do another layer. So we don't want this to come up too high, because this is only the bottom layer. I'm going to move to my spatula, so I've got a thinner layer down the bottom here. Of course, you're not going to have this perfect, because you don't want your lines to be perfect. You want your lines to kind of be blending into each other as you come up. I don't know yet how we're going to decorate the top of this. Probably flowers and blueberries. Again, you could just, for a kid's party, you could just do a character. So for my daughter's swimming pool party, I got this, it was like a pocket, dolly pocket or something, and she was like a mermaid, so she just sort of sat on top. That's looking good. Just, I've got a bit more icing, so all I'm going to do now is come back and just make it thicker. I don't want to scratch my bowl. I'm just going to get this out with this spatula and then use it from here. Okay, now we're not going to make this perfectly smooth yet. We're going to come back and do that. So all you're doing now really is just placing the icing where you want it, filling in any major gaps. So like where the cake dips in, you just put extra icing, and you just keep going round and round and round. Okay, one more dollop over here, and that is looking good. Okay, now what we're going to do is, I'll show you how much is left in here. We're going to leave that in there to do the next layer. So that is just really the remnants and a little bit of the powder that's sitting at the bottom. So we're going to do this next layer, which was a third, leaving that white for the top. And I'm going to whip that in for the lighter next layer, which will be lighter blue. That's beautiful. It's really pale blue, possibly too pale. Barely even see it. So what happens is if I scrape it down, scrape off the spatula again, and of course, look, you can use food colouring. It's especially blue food colouring. I mean, I try to avoid this stuff. Although it was expensive for the packet, it goes a long way. And knowing that you're giving your kids a superfood full of antioxidants and you can use for pink, instead of pitaya, you can use beetroot, but beetroot is also high carb. beetroot one. I've got an organic beetroot powder here, but it's 6 grams per 100. Well, that's very low. That's not what I thought I thought, no, that can't be right. Carbs, oh, they've split it, sugars and carbs. So it's 62 grams per 100, but then it says per serve, it's only 4 grams. So you know what I mean? Like, you don't use a lot of this stuff. It's freeze-dried, it's completely concentrated. So yeah, so beetroot is another option. But again, I've tried baking with that to make a pink cake, and the colour just like separated to the top, which was interesting, but not what I was going for, so I didn't pursue it. Okay, just scraping around the last of this powder off the bottom because I don't want to waste it, and also to make this just that little bit bluer with the spatula. Seems to, oh, that's lovely. It's kind of becoming streaky. You can use this spirulina for chia bowls and stuff like that too. Okay, so I'm going to put this on now, roughly, and just pat it on like you're blocking up a, I've never done, what do you call it, plastering. I imagine it's very similar to this. I've watched with people, you know, rendering a brick wall and stuff. It's a very similar process. Alright, there's not a lot of this one, so we don't want to make this layer too thick because we're almost at the top anyway. We want to be able to see that white layer from the side and then use the rest of that icing for the top. If you haven't done something like this before, it can be quite daunting. Hopefully this will help make things easier for you. It takes a bit of practice, and if it's a hot day you might be in and out of the fridge a few times if the icing is just not behaving or melting as you go. So now I'm at this point where I've done all the way around. Of course you can use a turntable if you've got one. What I use when I'm doing a big cake and I can't reach over the top like this is I actually bought a Lazy Susan at IKEA, much cheaper than a professional turntable, and it's just a little pine looking thing that spins around that can make things a lot easier. Okay, now finally the vanilla layer. Just going to clean that off, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and we're going to plonk on the vanilla layer. Okay, and then we're just going to spread that out. Well, vanilla layer, it's all vanilla, but this is the white layer. What I'm going to do, it's very thick, so as I come to the edges, I'm just going to push it past the edge, so it's, when we come back to that, that's going to be the bit that fills in the gap along the side. I'll show you what I mean. I'm pushing, 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 just past the edge, pushing, smoothing it out as I go to make sure that I haven't got too much icing on one side and not enough on the other, pushing to the edge and a little bit past the edge. Pushing to the edge and a little bit past the edge. So I've got a few crumbs there. So yeah, if you want to avoid getting the crumbs mixing in, the way to do that is a really thin layer, pop it in the fridge. Alright, so that's not looking too much like anything right now, but the next stage is the crucial stage. Oops, I need a bit more icing over that side, which is when we're going to start running the spatula around. This is when the Lazy Susan might come in really handy, so I'm going to go and get it, because then that way I can actually show you how it works. This is an IKEA Lazy Susan. It's made for, you know, putting in the middle of the table and putting things on it. You can spin around. It's not that big though, but anyway. I bought that just for making cakes, and I think a lot of people use that just for making cakes. Much, much cheaper than a professional turntable. All you want to do is make absolutely certain the cake is in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to just put the rest of this icing on, because there's a tiny bit left in here and I've got a bit of a gap over here. I'm going to just pop that on. Yeah, flowers is another beautiful way to finish off a cake like this. And now I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to basically hold it straight. You could use anything here. If you don't have something that has got a dead straight line, make something. Just look around the kitchen, find some hard plastic. Not that we've all got ice cream in the freezer anymore, but that sort of thing, like an ice cream container, thickness plastic, cut a straight line, even a square, some people will have this. I'm going to get right down low so that I can see and make sure that I'm holding this straight up and down. And then I'm going to start dragging this around. It's gathering the excess icing and it's pushing it to the spaces that it's needed. This paper is getting totally in the way. I've not normally do it on the paper, but like I said, because I don't know what we're going to do with what we're going to serve it on. If you get too much, scrape it off. Come back to that later, we can use it. I am getting quite a few crumbs in mixing with this icing, but you'll forgive me. Okay, so we're just spinning that around. Yeah, that paper is totally getting in the way. Scrape it off so you can see what you're doing, if that helps. It's coming together. I think I'm going to be a tiny bit short of icing. I'm going to just push some of that vanilla, because I've got quite a thick layer. I'm going to push some of that to the edges now, more than I did, and then actually drag it. Well, I've got a bit of vanilla, I'm going to drag it around to push that down, so that while I'm going around the whole thing, we will have a vanilla layer that's visible. Oh, crumbs, crumbs. Maybe that's where that saying came from. Crumbs. Cake makers. Crumbs. Oh, crumbs. Crumbs, crumbs everywhere. Oh well. Just don't do that for a wedding cake. Birthday cakes, people will forgive you. Not a paid wedding cake anyway. Someone's paying me. Oh, so many crumbs. So now when I get to points where it's a bit thin, I'm taking that extra icing back that I moved over. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I'm just going to keep spinning it to get this a bit more even. You know what? Where we are right now, I would happily serve that. That's where you would stop if you want it to be kind of rustic. And in fact, I might even stop there because I am getting so many crumbs. If you want it to be perfectly, perfectly flat, you want to hold this straight up and down again and keep going around. What you would also do is pop it in the fridge, 5 minutes, let that icing harden up, come out, and then smooth it out yet again. But I think that for what we are trying to achieve here, I think this rustic look is going to look beautiful. This rustic look, you could serve this cake to anybody. This could be a beautiful 21st cake for a boy or a girl. Anybody would love this. We've got no sugar, well, no, you know, very, very low carbs. We've got superfood icing. I mean, this is just fabulous. I'm just slowly going from the bottom. I'm slowly going to come up and up and up. And let these lines just flow around. This is just me doing one last little thing to make sure I'm happy with it, how this looks, because this is going to be in the book. Okay, So I'm slowly getting higher and higher, smoothing that out, but it's leaving a trail of lines behind. Which I think is nice. It's that rustic look. It's a beachy look, like waves in a sand. Okay, all the way to the top. When you get to the top, I'll show you what you do. So we're all the way to the top now. When you get to the top, you've got these little, I don't know if you can see, the top isn't quite flat. You've got these little castle-like ridges. Okay, now if you want to get rid of those, now we're just going to go out from the outside, in, bringing those, giving those a nice curved edge, in, and we're making sure it is nice and flat on top, which it is. It's lovely. Just going to put this last bit on this side because I can see that we've got probably a millimetre more height on that side, which again, let's not be fussy. Right, that's it. I think we're going to stop there. And this I will, you know, can you just imagine flowers and blueberries on this cake for an adult or for a child by an Elsa doll or a Little Mermaid or a ball? You know, so many things, so versatile. I would, yeah, that's going to look fantastic. So that's the final cake, done and dusted for this Keto Cakes book that will be released very soon. And I am dying to see your photos. I'm sure you can do a better job. And I can't wait to see it. And yeah, I really hope you enjoy it. I'm sure your party guests will enjoy it, and so will you. And they will have no idea it's low carb, which is a bit sneaky, but it's awesome. Just gonna zoom in there. Can I zoom in? Can't zoom in. I'm just gonna bring this a bit closer so you can have a good look. That's so pretty. Oops, I'm holding it steady. Let's have a little spin. Bring it right down here. Spin around. So pretty. Oh, I could just bring that closer, couldn't I? Lovely. All right, thank you so much, guys, for watching.